Hey, what's up everyone? I hope you all doing well. This is Jack from byprogrammers.com and welcome back to a brand new episode of Let's Code React Native. In the previous video, we have actually built the main layout that consists of the Home tab, the Search tab, and also the Profile tab. Now in this video, which is the second part of our online learning app, we are going to take a look at how we can handle the light and dark theme for the Profile tab. Do take note that we are not going to go through this for all the screens as the concepts are quite similar. Alright, next we'll be working on the course listing screen. And over here, we are going to take a look at React Native shared elements as well as a couple of cool animations. Lastly, we'll be working on the filter model. Alright, now with that being said, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to open up the star template. The link is in the description below. Open up the theme.js file located in the constants folder, and then copy the entire theme.js file and replace it in your constants theme.js file over here. This is so that we have the properties over here to work on the dark and light theme. Okay, now before we can work on the light and dark theme over here, we need to first install React Redux so that we can keep track of the selected theme. Alright, so open up your terminal, and over here we are going to run npm install react-redux space redux space redux-thunk. Enter. Next, we are going to cd into iOS and run pod install. Alright, next I'm going to close the app, navigate back to the root folder, and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, now that we have successfully installed the React Redux, next we'll need to include some of the boilerplate codes before we can use React Redux in our app. Alright, so I'm gonna hide this, and in the root directory I'm going to create a new folder called stores. Alright, so over here we need two files. We need theme actions and followed by theme reducer. For the theme actions.js file, this is where we are going to create the toggle theme function. Once the toggle theme function is being executed in the action file, we will then sort of pass it over to the reducer so that we can keep track of the selected theme. Right, so go back to your theme actions.js file. Over here, we are going to import from constants, and we need light theme and also dark theme. Oops, I'm sorry, I think I forgot to include the light and dark theme in the index.js file. Alright, so over here we need to import the dark theme, light theme, and also selected theme. Okay, and don't forget we need to export it over here as well. Dark theme, light theme, and selected theme. Alright, save it. Now navigate back to the theme actions file. Let me hide the terminal. Alright, so over here, after we have imported the light and dark theme, we need three constants variables. Alright, so export constant toggle theme begin equals to toggle theme begin. I'm gonna just simply copy and paste. So next we have toggle theme success. Then here it's going to be toggle theme success as well. And lastly we have toggle theme failure, like that. Alright, so after we have set up the constant variables, next we are going to create the toggle theme function. So export function toggle theme, and the parameter is going to be theme type, and over here we are going to return dispatch followed by the arrow syntax, and over here the first thing we need to dispatch is toggle theme begin function. Okay, and we are going to create this function over here. So export constant toggle theme begin followed by arrow function, and we are going to pass the type over like that, toggle theme begin. Let me fix the typo over here. Okay, and after this we are going to check by using a switch statement, we are going to check the team type. Okay, if the team type is equals to dark, then we are going to dispatch toggle team success by passing the dark team over. And since it's a switch statement, don't forget we need to include the break statement like this. Alright, if it's equals to light, if the team type equals to light, then we are going to dispatch toggle team success as well, and we are going to pass the light team over. Alright, same thing, we need to include the break statement, and we are going to create the toggle team success function over here. So export constant toggle team success followed by the arrow function, and over here it's going to be selected team, arrow function like that, and we are going to pass the type over, where the type is going to be toggle team success, and we are going to pass the payload over as well, and the payload is going to be selected team. Alright, so if the team type is not equals to dark and it's not equals to light as well, then we have the default close. So over here we are going to dispatch toggle team failure, and we will pass the error property over that says invalid team type like that. Alright, same thing, we need to include the break statement as well, and we will need to create the toggle team failure function over here. So export constant toggle team failure, we will need to receive the arrow parameter followed by arrow function, and over here it's going to be type toggle team failure followed by the payload, it's going to be error like that. Oops, error. Alright, now save it. Alright, so that's all for the team actions file. Next we are going to move on to the team reducer. So over here we need to import from team actions, and we need to import all as team action types. Next we need to import from constants, and over here we need to import selected team. Okay, in the reducer we need to keep track of the initial state like that. So constant initial state equals to app team equals to selected team. This is kind of like the initial team. Alright, so app team equals to selected team, and array equals to null. Okay, so over here we can then define the team reducer. So constant team reducer equals to, the state is going to be initial state, and the second parameter over here is going to be the action. Alright, followed by the arrow syntax. Don't forget we need to export default team reducer over here. Okay, so over here we are going to check the action type by using a switch statement. Alright, so action.type. If the action.type equals to team action types dot toggle team begin, then we are going to return the state itself and the error is going to be null. If the action type equals to team action types dot toggle team success, then we are going to return the state itself, same thing, just that this time we are going to overwrite the app team to action.payload.selected team, which is the one we have included over here, right? Okay, and lastly, if the team action types dot toggle, if the action type equals to team action types dot toggle team failure, then we are going to return the state itself as well, and we are going to overwrite the error to action.payload.error like that. And lastly, for the default close, we are going to simply return the state itself like that. Okay, save it. Okay, now that we have successfully set up the team actions as well as team reducer, next we need to open up the app.js file. Over here we will need to import a couple of things. Alright, so we need to import from Redux. Over here it's going to be create store and apply middleware. Next we need to import from React-Redux, and over here it's going to be provider. Next we need to import from Redux thunk, and here it's going to be thunk like that. And lastly, we need to import from stores / team reducer, and here it's going to be team reducer. Alright, so after we have created the native stack navigator, we are going to create the store. Alright, so constant store equals to create store team reducer apply middleware thunk like that. Alright, now all we need to do before we can use our Redux is to wrap this entire navigation container within the provider component like that. Alright, and for the store, we are going to pass the store over. Okay, save it. And pretty much that's about it. We have successfully set up our Redux, and now we can then proceed to work on the light and dark theme. Okay, so go back to your source code, open up the screens folder. In the dashboard folder, open up the profile.js file, and over here the first thing we need to do is to make sure our profile screen can be connected to our Redux. Okay, so to do that we need to import from React Redux. Over here it's going to be connect, and now that I'm here, I'm going to import from stores team actions, and over here it's going to be toggle team. This is the function or the action that will be triggered whenever I click on this button over here. Okay, and next we'll need to scroll to the bottom. We need to include some boilerplates before we can connect to the Redux. Alright, so over here we need a function called map state to props. Over here the parameter is going to be state, and we are going to return app team, and we are going to get the app team from state.appteam. Next we have error, same thing, state.error. So basically what we are doing here is that we are trying to get the properties from team reducer over here and sort of like inject into our profile screen. Okay, next we have function map dispatch to props. Over here the parameter is going to be dispatch like that, and we are going to return toggle team. We will be taking in one parameter, which is the team type, followed by arrow function, and we are going to return dispatch toggle team by passing the team type over. So this is basically some boilerplate for us to trigger the toggle team function in the team actions .js file over here. Alright, and lastly, in order to make sure our profile is actually connected to our React Redux, we need to make use of the connect keyword like that. Here we'll need to include the map state to props, map state to props. Next we have map dispatch to props, and lastly will be the profile like that. Alright, save it. Next, scroll to the top. Over here we will need to include the app team as well as the toggle team function, right? The app team is the property from team reducer, and the toggle team is actually the action from team actions. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do here is that I'm going to make sure whenever I click on this button over here, I will trigger the toggle team action, and I will override the property, the app team property, depending on the selected team. Alright, so to do that, we are going to need a handler function. Alright, so here is going to be render. Oops. Alright, so we need a handler function called function toggle team handler. Now if the app team dot name, which means the currently selected app team, is equals to light, then we are going to call the toggle team action by passing dart over. Alright, else I'm going to trigger the toggle team action by passing the light keyword over. Alright, now whenever I click on this icon button over here, which is this button, so on press, I'm going to trigger the toggle team handler function like that. Alright, save it. Now whenever I click on this button, it should actually update the app team property in the team reducer file. Now all we need to do is to render the profile screen based on the selected team. Alright, so scroll down over here for the container view. Instead of setting the background color to white, I'm going to set the background color to app team dot background color 1. Alright, save it. Now whenever I click on the sun icon over here, the background color should change accordingly, just like that. Sweet. Next I'm going to work on the header component. Alright, so navigate to the render header function. Over here, the color of the header title is going to be app_team.text color. And the thin color for the sun icon, instead of black, I'm going to set it to app_team.thin color, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay, next we'll move on to the profile card section. Alright, so scroll down over here. For the background color, instead of setting it to primary tree, I'm going to set it to app_team.background color 2. Save it. Alright, so the background color is actually changing. Next, for the member button over here. Alright, so for the member button, the background color, I'm going to change it to app_team.background color 4. And for the label style, instead of primary, I'm going to set it to app_team.text color 2. Alright, now save it. Alright, let's see if it works. Sweet. Next, we need to work on the profile value component. Alright, so to do that, open up your components folder, open up the profile value .js file. Same thing over here, we need to make sure our profile value component is actually connected to our React Redux. Alright, so import from React Redux. Here is going to be connect. Scroll to the bottom, and since the boilerplate codes is actually quite similar, I'm going to simply copy and paste from the profile screen over here. So I'm going to copy the whole thing, paste it here. I'm going to replace the profile to profile value, and I'm going to remove the toggle theme action. We don't need that. And I'm going to remove the error property as well. We don't need that. Alright, next scroll to the top. Same thing, we need to include the app theme property over here. Now the first thing I'm going to change is the icon background color. So instead of additional color 11, I'm going to change it to app_team.background color 3. Alright, save it. Okay. Alright, it's changing. Next, we need to change the value text color. Alright, so scroll down over here. Color equals to app_team.text color. Alright, save it. Perfect. And lastly, for the right arrow icon, we are going to set the thin color to app_team.thin color, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright, we are almost there. We have completed the profile value component. Next, we'll move on to the profile radio button component as well. Alright, so go to the profile radio button.js file. Over here, same thing, we need to import from React Redux. This is so that we can connect our profile radio button component to the React Redux. Alright, so scroll to the bottom, and since it's actually the same, I'm going to simply copy and paste it from the profile value component and paste it over here. I'm going to change the profile value to profile radio button. Alright, same thing, scroll to the top. Over here, we need to include the app theme property as well. Alright, same thing for the icon background. Over here, instead of additional color 11, it's going to be app_team.background color 3. Save it. Okay. Alright, it's working. Next, for the label, the color is going to be app_team.text color. Alright, and lastly, for the radio button color, I'm going to set it to, instead of white, I'm going to set it to app_team.background color 1. Save it. Alright, sweet. Yep, it's working. Alright, so we have successfully included the light and dark theme for the profile screen. Next, we need to do the same for the bottom tabs over here. Alright, so head over to the screens folder, open up the main layout.js file. Same thing, we are going to import from React Redux. here it's going to be connect. Scroll to the bottom, and I'm going to simply copy and paste it from profile radio button component as well, since they are actually more or less the same. Alright, I'm going to replace the profile radio button to main layout like that, and scroll to the top. Over here for the main layout, we need to include the app theme property as well. Right, so for the bottom tab section over here, for the background color, it's going to be app theme dot background color 1. Alright, save it. Alright, navigate to the profile tab over here. Sweet. Alright, there's a bit of styling issue over here. So to solve that, I'm going to get rid of the margin bottom and change it to padding bottom like that. And if the sizes.height is more than 100, the padding bottom is going to be 20. If it's not, then it's going to be 5. Alright, save it. Perfect. Now for the view color, which is the tab container color over here, instead of primary tree, I'm going to set it to app theme dot background color 2. Alright, save it. Yep, perfect. Okay. Alright, so we have completed the light and dark theme for the profile screen. Like I mentioned earlier, we are not going to cover the light and dark theme for the other screen because the concepts are actually very similar. Alright, so that's all for the light and dark theme. Next, we'll move on to the course listing screen. Alright, so go back to your source code. In your screens folder, the first thing we need to do is to create a new folder called course. Alright, and within this folder, we need a new file called course listing.js. Right, so over here, I'm going to import from React. I'm going to import from React Native. We need view, we need text, image, flat list, and style sheet. Alright, next we need to import from React Native, reanimated. Now the reason why we need the reanimated library over here is so that we can, animate the header later on. Alright, so over here we need to import animated, we need extrapolate, we need interpolate, we need use animated scroll handler, we need use animated style, we need use shirt value with delay, with timing, and run on JS. Next we need to import from components. Alright, and over here we need to import icon button, we need horizontal course card, we need line divider as well. And lastly, we need to import from constants, right? And for this, we need colors, fonts, sizes, images, icons, and dummy data. Alright. Next, we can then create the course listing functional component. So constant course listing followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default course listing. Alright, so over here I'm going to simply return a container view with a text component that renders course listing. Right, I'm gonna give it a bit of styling as well. So style flex equals to 1, and the background color is going to be colors.white. Alright, save it. Next, don't forget we need to include in the index.js file over here. Alright, so we have course. I'm going to simply copy and paste it over here like this, and I'm going to change it to course listing like that. Alright, and of course we need to export it over here. Alright, save it. Alright, next what we need to do is that whenever we click on the category card over here or in the search tab over here, we would like to be able to navigate to the course listing page or course listing screen. But instead of using the usual or the normal navigation approach, we are going to make use of a very cool library called React Navigation Shared Element. By using this awesome library, we will be able to smoothly animate and transition from the Home tab or the Search tab to the course listing screen. Alright, so in the React Navigation Shared Element documentation, scroll down over here, simply copy this. I'm going to use npm install. You can use yarn if you want to. go back to your source code, open up the terminal, and run npm install these two libraries, right? These two packages. On top of that, we will also need to install a dependency library called React Navigation Stack. Alright, so over here, I'm going to run npm install at react-navigation/stack. Alright, next I'm going to close the app like this. I'm going to cd into iOS and run pod install. Next, I'm going to cd back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, now that we have successfully installed the React Navigation Shared Element library, next we need to head over to the app.js file and do some configurations before we can actually use it. Alright, so I'm gonna hide the terminal, and over here we'll need to import from React Navigation Shared Element. Right, and over here it's going to be create Shared Element Navigator. And over here I'll need to import from React Native, and we need the easing component. We will need the easing component to sort of like configure the shared element later on, okay? Alright, so over here, instead of creating the stack from create native stack navigator, we are going to create the stack from create shared element stack navigator, like that. Alright, I'm gonna get rid of this, we don't need that. I'm gonna get rid of this as well. Alright, and after we have created the shared element stack navigator, we need to create a constant variable called options. Alright, so for this, we will include a couple of configurations or options for the shared element stack navigator later on. Okay, so for the options, the first thing we need to do is to set the gesture enable to false. Alright, next for the transition spec, whenever I navigate to a new screen, so open, animation is going to be timing, and the config is going to be duration 400 millisecond. Easing is going to be easing.in-out easing.ease. Basically what this means is that whenever I navigate to a new screen, or more specifically whenever I navigate to the course listing screen, I'm going to see a fade in transition over here. Alright, and whenever I'm leaving the screen, so close, the animation, same thing, is going to be timing. And the config is the same as well, so I'm going to just copy and paste it from here, like that. Alright, after the transition spec property, we need to set the card style interpolator. Alright, so over here we have current, progress, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return card style, and the opacity will be progress, like that. Alright, save it. Next, we need to import the course listing screen over here. Alright, so we need to import course listing. And once we have done that, we need to scroll down. Over here, after the dashboard stack, I'm going to create another stack. So it's stack.screen, where the name will be course listing. The component is going to be course listing. And for the shared element options or the configurations, over here is going to be an arrow function like this, and I'm going to pass the options over. Alright, save it. Next, over here for the screen options prop, I'm going to set the use native driver to true. And for a better user experience, I'm going to set the detach inactive screens to false. Alright, save it. Okay, now that we have successfully configured the shared element, next I'm going to try to navigate to the course listing page from the home tab over here and also the search tab. Okay, alright, so in the screens folder over here, open up the home.js file. In the categories section, for the category card component over here, whenever I click on it on press, I would like to navigate. I think I need to include navigation at the top over here. Alright. Okay. Now go back to the categories section. Whenever I click on the category card, which is this card over here, I'm going to navigate to the course listing screen. Alright, save it. Next, I'll need to add the onPress prop in the category card component. So over here, we need onPress prop, and I'm going to include the onPress over here. So onPress equals to onPress. Save it. Now whenever I click on this, I should be able to navigate to the course listing screen. Oh, the reason why we are getting this error is because in the home screen, we are not supposed to, include the navigation like this. This is because our home screen is actually being wrapped in the main layout screen over here. So what we can do is that we can first remove this and scroll to the top. Over here, I'm going to import from React Navigation /native, and we are going to make use of the use navigation hook. Alright, so scroll down. Over here, I'm going to create a new constant variable called navigation, and here we'll make use of the use navigation hook. Alright, save it. Now whenever I click on the category card over here, I should be able to navigate to the course listing screen. Perfect. Next, I'm gonna do the same for the search screen, right? So over here, I'm gonna open up the search screen. Same thing, I need to import from React Navigation /native, and we are going to make use of the use navigation hook. Alright, so over here, I'm going to create a new constant variable called navigation, and we are going to make use of the use navigation hook, like that. And next, navigate to the category section. Okay, over here, whenever I click on the category card, same thing, I'm going to navigate to the course listing screen. Alright, save it. Now whenever I click on any of this, I should be able to navigate to the course listing screen. Sweet. Alright, next, before we can move on to the course listing screen, there are still a bit of work we need to do in the category card component. Alright, so over here we need to import from React Navigation shared element, right? And over here it's going to be shared element. And now for this component, we need one more prop, and that is the shared element prefix. The reason why we need this prop is so that we can differentiate whether this category card is being rendered in the home screen over here or in the search screen, right? So go back to the home.js file. In the category section over here, for the shared element prefix prop, I'm going to pass home over like that. And now that I'm here, I'm going to pass a couple of parameters over to course listing screen. So we need category, which is item, and I'm going to pass the shared element prefix over as well, which is going to be home. Alright, save it. Next, in the search screen, we need to basically do the same thing. For the category card component, we need to supply the shared element prefix, and this is going to be search. And over here, I'm going to pass a couple of parameters over as well. So for the category, it's going to be item, and the shared element prefix is going to be search, like that. Alright, save it. Now go back to the category card component. I am going to sort of like, revamp or restructure this component. So for the touchable opacity, I'm going to supply some styling. The height is going to be 150, width is going to be 200. And over here, instead of using image background component, I'm going to remove this whole thing, and then I'm going to replace it with image component, like that. Alright, the source is going to be category.thumbnail. Resize mode is going to be cover, and I think I need to include import image component over here. Style will be width 100%, height 100% as well, and the border radius is going to be sizes.radius. Alright, now save it. Now if you take a look at these background images over here, oops, I'm sorry, I need to refresh the app. If you take a look at these background images over here, it's actually very similar, or it's actually the same as the one in the course listing screen. For that reason, we are going to wrap this image component within the shared element component, like that. By doing so, we will be able to create a smooth animation that will sort of like transition this image component over to the course listing screen over here. Okay, so for this shared element component, we need to supply the ID. Alright, so for this, it's going to be shared element prefix dash category card dash background dash category.id. For the ID, it has to be unique, alright, or else we'll face some issues later on. Okay, so for the style, I am going to make use of the style sheet dot absolute field. I think I need to import style sheet over here. Alright, so style sheet dot absolute field object. Okay, save it. Oh, and I need to, include the container style over here. Alright, so far so good. So we have the image background in place, right? So we have the image background in place. Next, we will need to include the title, right? So we have the image background in place. Next, we'll need to include the title. Okay, so over here we have title, and for this we need a container view. Give it a bit of styling. Position is going to be absolute. Bottom is going to be 50, left is going to be 5. Alright, now over here I'm going to render the text component, and for this it's going to be category dot title. Alright, save it. Oh, I need to import view over here. Alright, I'm going to give the text component a bit of styling. The color is going to be white, and the font is going to be H2. Right, save it. Well, I think I need to change the bottom property to 25. Yep, a lot better now. Okay, now for the title, for the category title over here, since we'll be showing it in the course listing screen as well, we will include it in the shared element component so that we can animate it properly. Alright, so I'm going to include it, wrap it within the shared element component. Alright, same thing, we need to supply the ID. Okay, so over here it's going to be shared element prefix dash category card dash title dash category ID. Next, for the style, same thing, it's going to be style sheet dot absolute field object. Alright, save it. Oops, I think I need to set the text component to position absolute as well. Like that. And I'm going to change this to 50. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the category card component. Next, we are going to move on to the course listing screen. So over here, the first thing we need to do is to import from React navigation shared element, and over here it's going to be shared element. Next, we need to include some boilerplate codes over here. Alright, so course listing dot shared elements equals to, for the parameter we have route, other route, and showing, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Alright, so over here, I'm going to retrieve the category as well as the shared element prefix from the route.params. Now these two params are actually being passed over from the home screen over here and also the search screen, right? So go back to the course listing screen, and we are going to return an array of two objects because we have two shared elements, right? So for this, the ID is going to be shared element prefix dash category card dash background dash category dot ID. Next, we have same thing, ID shared element prefix dash category card dash title dash category dot ID. Alright, save it. Next, for the course listing screen, the first thing we need to render is the header over here. Alright, so within the container view, we are going to render the header. So for this, we are going to render a new function called render header, and we are going to create this function over here. Alright, so function render header, and we are going to return an animated view. The reason being is because I would like to animate the header later on. Alright, so whenever I scroll up, I want the header to do some animations. Okay, so for the style over here, it's going to be position absolute, top equals to 0, left equals to 0, right equals to 0, height equals to 250, and overflow equals to hidden, right? Now within this container view, the first thing we are going to render is the background image over here, and we need to wrap this background image within the shared element component. Okay, so for the ID prop, it's going to be shared element prefix dash category card dash background dash category dot ID. And for the style, same thing, it's going to be style sheet dot absolute field object. Now within this shared element component, we are going to render the image component, right? So for the source, it's going to be category dot thumbnail. Now before I forgot, let me retrieve the category from the route param first over here, right? So we need navigation, we need route, and over here constant category shared element prefix, and we will retrieve these two values from route.params. Okay, now go back to the header section over here. The resize mode is going to be cover. The style will be height 100%, width 100%, and the border bottom left radius, it's going to be 60. Alright, save it. Now whenever I click on any of these categories, I should be able to see a smooth transition between the home screen and also the course listing screen. Let's see. Okay, that wasn't the output that I am, expecting. Don't worry, let me reload the app for a bit. Scroll down, and over here, if I were to click on this, perfect. Just now when I click on the category card component, the background image of that particular category card animates smoothly into the course listing screen. Sweet! Alright, now that we have the background image in place, next we'll be working on the category title over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. After the background image over here, after the background image, next we'll be working on the title, right? And for this, we will need an animated view as well, because we will need to animate it later on. Alright, so animated view, give it a bit of styling. Position is going to be absolute, bottom is going to be 70, and left is going to be 30. Right, over here we need the shared element component. Same thing, we need to supply the ID, and for this it's going to be shared element prefix dash category card dash title dash category dot ID. Next, for the style, it's going to be style sheet dot absolute field object. And within this shared element component, we will be rendering the text component. Right, so over here it's going to be category.title, and give it a bit of styling. Position is going to be absolute. Color is going to be white. And the font is going to be H1. Alright, save it. Let me reload the app, like that. Alright, scroll down. Now if I were to click on any of these categories, both the background image and also the category title should animate smoothly into the course listing screen. Perfect. Alright, so after the category title, next we are going to work on the back button over here. Okay, so go back to your source code. After the title section, over here, we are going to render the back button. Right, so for the back button, I'm going to wrap it within the animated view as well, because I'm going to animate it later, like that. And within the animated view, we are going to render the icon button. Alright, so for the icon, it's going to be icons.back. Icon style will be tint color, colors.black. Next, for the container style, position is going to be absolute, top is going to be 40, left is going to be 20, width is going to be 50, height is going to be 50 as well. Align item is going to be center. Justify content is going to be center as well. Border radius will be 25, and lastly for the background color is going to be white. Alright, now let me save it. Okay, cool, so the back button is in place, and whenever I click on this button over here, I am going to trigger a new function called back handler, like that. Alright, and I'm going to create this function over here. Alright, so we have the handler section. Over here it's going to be function, back handler, and for this we are going to navigate back to the previous screen, just like that. Alright, now save it. Okay, since we have already set up the share element, whenever I click on the back button over here, the share element components, which is this background image over here as well as this title, will be able to animate smoothly back to the previous screen, just like this. Perfect. Okay, next we'll be working on the mobile image over here. Alright, so go back to your source code, scroll down. After the back button, we will need to render the I would say category image section, right? So for this, we are going to make use of the animated.image component because again, we need to animate it later on. Alright, so for the source, it's going to be images.mobile image. Resize mode is going to be contain, and for the style, position is going to be absolute. Right will be 40, bottom is going to be -40, width will be 100, and the height will be 200. Alright, and this is the initial position of this particular animated image component. Okay, save it. Alright, so we have sort of completed the header section over here according to the mark, right? Next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to animate the back button as well as this image over here. So whenever we navigate to this particular screen, which is the course listing screen, the back button as well as this image is going to fade in, and for this image over here, other than fading in, it will also slide in from the bottom. Alright, so in order to achieve that, scroll to the top over here. I'll need to first create a shared value for our header, so constant header shared value equals to use shared value, and the initial value is going to be 80. Alright, now within the render header function, the first thing we are going to do is that we are going to override the header shared value dot value equals to with delay, and I'm going to delay for 500 milliseconds, and over here we are going to make use of the with timing hook, and we will set the value to 0 based on the duration of 500 milliseconds as well. Alright, now based on this header shared value, we can then work on the animated style. Alright, so first thing we need over here is the fade in animation, right? So header fade animated style equals to use animated style equals arrow function, and we are going to return the opacity. Over here we will make use of interpolate, and we will interpolate the header shared value dot value. The I would say the input range will be 80, 0, and the output range is going to be 0 and 1. Alright, next we are going to inject this animation over here for our back button, right? So style equals to header fade animated style. Other than the back button, we also need to include it for the image over here. Alright, so for this I'm going to change it to an array, and over here I'm going to include the header fade animated style as well. Alright, save it. Alright, now navigate back to the previous screen, and if I were to navigate to the course listing screen, both the back button as well as the category image should fade in. Alright, let's see. Perfect. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a slide in animation for the image over here. Alright, so scroll back up. Over here, after the fade animated style, we need another style called header translate animated style. Same thing, we are going to make use of the use animated style, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return transform translate y, and over here it will be header shared value dot value. Next, we are going to inject the translate animated style over here for the image, right? Just like that. Save it. Alright, let me reload the app. Alright, now whenever we navigate to the course listing screen, the category image should slide in from the bottom as well. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the header section for now. Next we'll move on to the result listing section over here. And whenever we scroll the result listing section or the scroll view, we would like to be able to animate the header section over here as well. Alright, let's see how we can do that. So scroll up over here. I'm going to first turn the flat list into animated component. So constant animated flat list equals to animated dot create animated component, and I'll pass in the flat list like that. Alright, and over here I'll also need to create a couple of constant variables, right? So we need constant flat list ref. This is the reference variable for the flat list. Alright, so it's going to be react.useRef. Next we need to keep track of the scroll y. This is so that we can animate the header later on. Alright, so scroll y equals to use shared value, and the initial value is going to be 0. And lastly, we'll also need to create the onScroll function. Alright, so onScroll equals to use animated scroll handler. We have event over here followed by the arrow function, and we will override the scroll y.value based on event.contentOffset.y like that. Alright, I think that's all we need. So scroll down over here. Before the header section, I'm going to render the results section. Now the reason why we are doing so is because I would like the header section to be rendered on top of the results section. Okay, so for the results section, we are going to render a new function called render results like that. Alright, and we are going to create this function over here. And for this, we are going to return the animated flat list, right? Where the ref is going to be flat list ref. Data will be dummy data dot courses list 2. Key extractor is going to be item followed by the arrow syntax and results dash item dot id. The content container style padding horizontal is going to be sizes dot padding. Shows horizontal scroll indicator should be equals to false. Scroll event truffle should be equals to 16. Keyboard dismiss mode is going to be on drag. On scroll, we are going to pass in the on scroll function that we have just created earlier. Alright, now over here we are going to render the list header component. Alright, so for this it's going to be the number of results on the left and followed by the filter icon on the right. Okay, so over here we are going to return a view with a bit of styling. Flags direction should be equals to row. Align item should be equals to center. Margin top will be 270. Margin bottom is going to be sizes.base. Alright, so over here we have the results followed by the filter button, right? So for this, we will simply render a text component, and for this I'm going to simply hardcode it to 5,761 results. Give it a bit of styling. Flex is going to be 1 and the font will be body tree. Alright, save it. Okay, so we have the result section in place. Next, for the filter button, we are going to make use of the icon button component, where the icon is going to be icons.filter. Next, for the icon style, width is going to be 20 and height is going to be 20 as well. Container style, width will be 40, height will be 40. Align item will be center. Justify content will be center as well. Border radius is going to be 10 and the background color is going to be colors.primary. Alright, now save it. Perfect. Next we'll be working on the render item prop, right? We are going to render the result listing over here. Okay, so render item equals to item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the horizontal course card component, right? So the course is going to be item, and the container style, margin vertical, is going to be sizes.padding, and margin top, if the index equals to 0, which means if it's the first item, then margin top is going to be sizes.radius. If it's not, then it's going to be sizes.padding. Alright, save it. Perfect. All we need to do now is to work on the line divider in between. So to do that, after the render item prop, we are going to make use of the item separator component. Okay, so for this, same thing, arrow function, and we are going to return a line divider component. For the line style, background color is going to be colors.gray20. Alright, save it. Sweet. Okay, so we have completed the result listing section. Next, what we are going to do is that we are going to animate the header section, or more specifically the header height, based on the result listing scroll position. Okay, so scroll to the top over here. I'm going to create one constant variable called header height. So constant header height equals to 250. Next, in the render header function over here, I'm going to create another constant variable called input range, because we need the input range, we need to use the same input range multiple times later on. Alright, so constant input range equals to 0, header height minus 50. Alright, now over here, there are actually a series of animations that I would like to do, but we will first animate the header height. Okay, so constant header height animated style equals to use animated style. Same thing, over here we have the arrow function, and we are going to return height like that, and interpolate based on scroll Y value. Input range is going to be input range, and for the output range it's going to be header height, 120. Alright, and over here we have extrapolate dot claim like that. Alright, and we are going to inject this particular animated style over here. So I'm going to turn this into an array, and I'm going to simply inject it like this. Alright, save it. Okay, don't worry about this. Let me reload the app. Go back to the mobile design course listing screen, and now whenever we scroll the result list, the header height should be animated accordingly. Okay, I think there must be something wrong with my onScroll function over here. Oh, it should be content offset like that. Alright, a bit of typo. Alright, save it. Let me reload the app, navigate back to the course listing screen. Now whenever I scroll it, there you go. As you can see over here, the height of the header section is being animated in accordance to the scroll position. Just like that. Alright. Okay, next thing I would like to do is that whenever I scroll up, I would like to be able to hide the title as well as the image over here as well. Okay, so to do that, over here, after the header height animated style, I'm going to create another style called header height on scroll animated style equals to use animated style followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to return opacity. It's going to be interpolate, and we are going to interpolate the scroll Y value. The input range is going to be 80, 0, and the output range is going to be 0 and 1, and over here the extrapolate is going to be claim. Alright, other than the opacity, I would like to, set the translate Y as well. This is basically to improve the overall user experience, alright? So over here we have transform, translate Y, and we are going to interpolate same thing, the scroll Y value. Input range is going to be input range, and the output range is going to be 0 to 100, and over here it will be extrapolate claim. Like that. Alright, now I'm going to inject this animated style over here for the title, right? Same thing, I'm going to change this into an array, and I'm going to inject it over here. And we also need to inject this animated style over here. like that. Alright, save it. Don't worry about this, simply reload the app, navigate back to the course listing, and now whenever I scroll the result list, both the category title as well as the image will be animated accordingly. Just like that. Perfect. Sweet. Alright, next what I would like to do is that whenever I scroll up, I would like to have another, category title to be slid in from above. Okay, so to do that, I am going to render another animated view over here. Alright. So animated.view, give it a bit of styling. Alright. Position is going to be absolute. Top will be -80, left will be 0, and right will be 0. And within the animated view, we are going to render the text component, and same thing, we are going to render category title, right? And give it a bit of styling. Text align is going to be center. Font will be H2, and the color is going to be colors.white. Alright, save it. Now you wouldn't be able to see it now because we have set the top property to be -80. Alright, next we are going to define an animated style that will basically show the header title over here. Alright, I mean the category title over here. Okay, so over here, constant header show on scroll animated style equals to use animated style, same thing, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the opacity, interpolate the scroll Y value. The input range is going to be 80 and 0, whereas the output range is going to be 1 and 0, and over here the extrapolate will be claim. Next, I'm going to set the translate Y as well, so transform, translate Y, interpolate, scroll Y value. Here it's going to be input range, and the output range will be 50, 130, and lastly the extrapolate, same thing, it's going to be claim. And now we are going to inject this animated style into the second category title over here. Right, same thing, I'm going to change it to array and inject it over here. Alright, save it. Don't worry about this, reload the app, navigate to the course listing screen, and now whenever I scroll up, both the category title as well as the image will disappear, will fade out, and another category title over here will fade in. Alright, just like that. Perfect. Alright. Okay, so all we need to do now is that whenever we click on the back button over here, I would like to do a bit of reverse animation, which means whenever I click on the back button, I would like the back button over here to fade out, as well as the mobile image over here to slide down. Alright, sort of like a reverse animation. Alright, so to do that, head over to the back button over here. Instead of triggering the back handler function directly, I'm going to make use of the set timeout, alright, followed by the arrow function. The timeout will be 100 milliseconds, just a short timeout. And over here, I'm going to set the header shed value dot value equals to with timing. I'm going to set it to 80 with the duration of 500 milliseconds. Alright, and after the with timing is completed, I'm going to have a callback function over here. Instead of calling the back handler function directly, we have to specify we would like to run on JS. Alright, because currently at this point of time we are running on UI thread, so we need to specifically inform React Native that we would like to run on JS thread. Alright, just like that. Save it. Now, if I were to click on the back button, we should be able to see some reverse animation over here. Perfect. Next, we need to do a bit of extra handling if we have an sort of awkward scroll position, something like this. So if this is the case, if the user click on the back button, I would like to scroll the flat list to the offset of 0, which is something like this, before we perform the reverse animation. Alright, so to do that, over here we need an if statement. Alright, so if the scroll y dot value is more than 0 and scroll y dot value is less than or equals to 200, then we are going to make use of the flat list ref dot current dot scroll to offset. Over here we will scroll to offset 0, right? And the any method will be equals to true. And after we have done that, we will then call the set timeout over here, just like that. Alright, save it. Now if our scroll position is in an awkward position, something like this, if we were to click on the back button, the flat list will first be scrolled to an offset of 0 before we perform the reverse animation, right? Let's see. Perfect. Okay. Now if the scroll is in this position, however, I'm going to simply call the back handler function. Like this. Save it. Now, if I were to click on the back button, it should animate properly as well. Sweet. Okay, so that's all for the course listing screen. Next, we'll move on to the filter model. So what happened here is that whenever I click on the filter model button over here, the filter model will slide up from bottom. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. The first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new component called filter model. Alright, so filter model.js. Over here, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need view, text, image, touchable opacity, and scroll view, right? After this, we need to import from React Native reanimated. For this, we need animated, we need interpolate, we need use animated style, we need with delay, and also with timing. Alright, and after this we need to import a couple of components. So we need text button, and also we need line divider, and lastly we need to import from constants. So for this we need colors, fonts, sizes, icons, and constants. Alright, and after this we can then create the filter model functional component. So constant filter model equals to followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget we need to export the default filter model. Alright, and over here I'm going to simply return an animated view for now. We are going to work on it later on. Okay, next we need to include the filter model component in the index.js file. So over here I'm going to simply copy and paste, change it to filter model, and we'll need to export it over here. Now we can then head back to the course listing screen, scroll to the top, make sure we import the filter model over here, and we need to render the filter model component right after the header section. So here we have the filter model, right? So we are going to render filter model. Alright, save it. I'm going to save this as well. It should be fine. Alright, now if we were to take a look at the filter model, we basically have 3 different containers over here. The first container is basically to render the background as well as the content over here. The second container will be the background, and lastly we have the content itself. Alright, so for that reason, for this filter model, we are going to take in 2 props. The first one is going to call filter model shared value 1. The second one will be filter model shared value 2. The reason why we need to have 2 shared value over here is because we need the first shared value to animate the main container that contains both the background as well as the model content, right? And we need the second shared value to render the background, to animate the background and also the filter content over here. Alright, now navigate back to the course listing screen, scroll to the top. Over here, after the header shared value, we need to create 2 filter model shared value. Alright, so over here, constant filter model shared value 1 equals to use shared value, and here it's going the initial value is going to be sizes.height. Next we have same thing, filter model shared value 2. The initial value will be sizes.height as well. Alright, the next thing we need to do is that we are going to pass these 2 constant variables or the shared value over to the filter model component. right? So filter modal shape value 1 equals to filter modal shape value 1, and filter modal shape value 2 equals to filter modal shape value 2. Alright, now whenever the user click on the filter modal button or the filter button, I'm gonna look for the button first. Alright, so whenever the user click on the filter button, I am going to first change the value of filter modal shape value 1 dot value equals to with timing. I'm going to change it to value 0 over a duration of 100 millisecond. Next, we are going to override the filter modal shape value 2 as well. And over here, we will give it a bit of delay, so with delay of 100 millisecond. And over here, we will make use of the with timing hook, like that. We will set it to 0 as well over a duration of 500 millisecond. Alright, save it. That's all we need to do for the course listing screen. Next, we can then move on to the filter model. Over here, we need to create a couple of, animated style. Alright, so the first thing we need to animate here is the filter model main container. Alright, so filter model container. The main container is basically the one that renders both the background as well as the model content, right? So constant filter model container animated style equals to use animated style followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the opacity will be interpolate the filter model shape value 1 dot value. The input range is going to be sizes dot height, 0, and the output range will be 0 and 1. Alright, next we will override the translate y property as well. So transform translate y. Over here it's going to be filter model shape value 1 dot value, like that. Next we need to define the animated style for the filter model background over here, right? So for that we need to create another constant animated style. So filter model background animated style equals to use animated style, same thing, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the opacity. We are going to make use of the interpolate method as well, and we are going to interpolate the filter model shape value 2 this time, right? The input range is going to be sizes dot height 0, and the output range will be 0 and 1. And lastly, we need another animated style for the content itself, right? So constant filter model content animated style equals to use animated style followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the opacity. Same thing, we will make use of the interpolate method. We will interpolate the filter model shape value 2 dot value. The input range is going to be sizes dot height 0, and the output range will be 0 and 1. Next, we are going to override the translate y property as well. So transform translate y. Over here, it will be filter model shape value 2 dot value. Alright, so we have created all the animated style that we need. Next, we can then move on to the return statement over here, right? So the first thing we have is the container itself. Well, I can actually call it main container. After this, we have the background, right? Background container. And lastly, we have the content container, right? Alright, so for the main container, we need to give it a bit of styling. So the position is going to be absolute. Bottom is going to be 0. Height is going to be sizes.height. Width is going to be sizes.width. And I'll change it into an array like that. And I'll inject the filter model container animated style over here. Alright, so for the background container, we need to render the animated view as well. Like that. Give it a bit of styling. Flex is going to be 1. Height is going to be sizes.height as well. Width is going to be sizes.width. Background color is going to be colors.transparent black 7. I'll change it into an array as well, like that, so that I can inject the filter model background animated style into this animated view. Right, now save it. If you were to click on the filter model button now, we should be able to see the background, the filter model background fade in. Let's see. Perfect. So two things are actually happening here. The main container actually slides in from bottom. You can't see it because the color is transparent, but in fact what's happening behind the scene is that the main container over here actually slides in from the bottom, and after that the background container fades in, right? So after the background container, we can then work on the content container itself. So over here we need the animated view as well. Oops. We need to give it a bit of styling. Position is going to be absolute. Bottom is going to be 0. Height is going to be sizes.height times 0.9. Width is going to be sizes.width. Border top left radius is going to be 30. Border top right radius is going to be 30 as well. This is for these rounded corner over here, right? And lastly, the background color is going to be colors.white. And of course, we need to change it into an array so that we can inject the filter model content animated style. Alright, save it. Now if I were to reload the app, navigate to the course listing screen, and once I click on the filter model button, three things are going to happen. The main container is going to slide in from bottom, the background container is going to feed in, and lastly the content container is going to slide up from bottom as well. Let's see. Perfect. Alright, now within the content container, the first thing we need to do is the header section over here. So we have the filter text component and followed by the cancel text button. Alright, so for that we have the header section. We need a container view, give it a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding. Flex direction is going to be row, and the padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding. Now over here, I'm going to render an empty view so that the filter text will be placed in the middle, right? So I'm going to render an empty view, give it a bit of styling. The width is going to be 60, like that. Next, we are going to render the text component, right? So here it's going to be filter for the style. Flex is going to be 1, text align is going to be center, and the font will be H1. And after the text component, we are going to render the cancel text button, right? So we have the text button component. The label is going to be cancel. Content container style, width is going to be 60, and the background color, I want it to be null, to be transparent, right? Label style, color is going to be black, and the font is going to be body tree. And lastly, whenever I click on the cancel button, I would like to overwrite the filter model shared value 2.value equals to with timing. I'm going to overwrite to sizes.height, the value of sizes.height over a duration of 500 millisecond. Next, we need to, this is basically to close the model, right? So we need to do reverse animation. So next we need to change the filter model shared value 1.value equals to, we need to give it a bit of delay, right? So with delay, 500 millisecond, because we want to wait for the, for this timing to finish, right? So we're gonna wait for 500 millisecond. With timing, I'm going to change it to sizes.height over a duration of 100 millisecond. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. So the header section is in place, and if I were to click on the cancel button, the model should slide down like that. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so we have the filter model container in place. Next, we'll move on to the content itself over here. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to scroll up over here. I'll first create the states that we need. Alright, so constant selected class type, because we have selected class type, selected class level, and lastly, we have the selected created within, right? So we have selected class type, set selected class type equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be an empty string. Next we have selected class level, set selected class level. Same thing, the initial value is going to be an empty string. And lastly we have the selected created within, set selected created within equals to react.useState, same thing, an empty string as well. Alright, now navigate back to the content section over here. After the header section, we are going to render the content itself, right? And for this, we are going to render the scroll view. So over here, the content container style padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding, and the padding bottom is going to be 50, right? Now within the scroll view component, the first thing we need to render is the class type section. So we have the class type over here. We are going to render a container view, give it a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.radius, and over here we are going to render the class type title, right? Section title. So we are going to render the text component. Here is going to be class type, and the style font is going to be H3. Alright, save it. Alright, so we have the class type section title in place. Next, we are going to work on the class type options over here. And in order to achieve this, I'm going to, create a separate component for this within the filter model component. So scroll to the top. Over here, right before the filter model functional component, I'm going to create the class type functional component. So class type option equals to, for this component, we will be taking in 4 props. So we need container style, we need class type, we need is selected, and also we need onPress. Okay, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the touchable opacity, right? Because each of these options is going to be a button actually, right? So for the touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling. Flex is going to be 1, height is going to be 100, align item is going to be center, justify content is going to be center as well, padding horizontal is going to be sizes.radius, border radius is going to be sizes.radius as well, and for the background color, if it's being selected, then the background color is going to be primary tree. If it's not, then it's going to be additional color 9, like that. Alright, and lastly, I'm going to override I'm going to include the container style over here. Alright, so for the onPress, it's going to be onPress. And now within the touchable opacity, we are going to render the image or the icon itself, followed by the text component, right? So over here we have the image component. The source is going to be class type.icon. Resize mode is going to be contain. The style will be width 40, height 40, thin color. If it's being selected, then I'm going to render the white color. If it's not, then it's going to be gray 80. Alright, and after the image component, we need the text component, right? So over here, I'm going to render class type.label. Style will be margin top, sizes.base, and for the color, if it's being selected, then the color of the text will be white. If it's not, then it's going to be gray 80. Alright, and the font will be H3. Okay, save it. Now we have the class type option component in place. Next, we can then move back to the class type section. After the text component, I'm going to render a container view, give it a bit of styling. Flex direction is going to be row. Margin top is going to be sizes.radius. Alright, and over here, I'm going to make use of the map method to render all the class type options components that we have just created. So constants dot class types dot map. Over here we have item, index, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the class type option component, right? So the key is going to be class type dash index. Class type is going to be item. Is selected is going to be true if the selected class type equals to item.id. Container style, margin left will be if the index is equals to 0, which means if it's the first item, then margin left will be 0. If it's not, then it's going to be sizes.base, right? And after this, we have the onPress. Alright, so over here we have the arrow function, and whenever the user click on the class type option, then we are going to set the selected class type to item.id. Alright, save it. Okay, perfect. Next, we'll move on to the class level section. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here, after the class type section, we are going to have the class level section, right? So for this, we need to render the container view as well. Give it a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding, right? So over here, same thing, we are going to first render the section title, right? So we have a text component that renders class level, and the font will be H3. Alright, save it. Now for the class level options, I'm going to create a standalone component as well called class level option. Right, so over here, scroll to the top. After the class type option component, over here we have class level option component. Right, so for this, we will be tagging in 5 props. So we have container style, we have class level, we have is last item, we have is selected, and lastly we have onPress. After this, we have the arrow function, and over here we are going to return an empty fragment like this. Alright, I'm going to return an empty fragment. So for this, we are going to render the touchable opacity because this whole thing is actually clickable, right? So we are going to render touchable opacity with a bit of styling. Flex direction is going to be row, height is going to be 50, align item is going to be center, and the container style, I'm going to include it over here as well. Alright, the onPress is going to be onPress. Now over here, the first thing we are going to render is the text component, followed by the checkbox over here. Okay, so we have the text component that renders class level dot label, right? And give it a bit of styling. Flex is going to be 1, and the font will be body tree. Right, after the text component, we are going to render the checkbox. So we need the image component. For the source, if it's being selected, then it will be icons.checkbox on, or else it's going to be icons.checkbox off. Alright, over here the resize mode is going to be contain. For the style, width is going to be 20 and height is going to be 20 as well. Alright, and after the touchable opacity, we are going to render the line divider over here. If it's not the last item, so if it's not the last item, then I am going to render the line divider, right? Over here, the line style, height is going to be 1, like that. Alright, now save it. Okay, go back to the class level section. Alright, after the class type, we have class level section. Over here, I'm going to render another container view, and we are going to make use of the map method, same thing, to render the class level options over here, right? So, constants dot class level dot map. Over here, same thing, we have item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the class level option component, where the key is going to be class type dash index. Class level is going to be item, is last item is going to be true if the index is equals to constants dot class level dot length minus 1. Is selected is going to be true if selected class level is equals to item.id. And lastly, whenever we click on this class level option, we are going to set the selected class level to item.id. Alright, now save it. Okay, perfect. Alright, so after the class level section, we are going to move on to the created within section. Okay, so over here, after the class level, we are going to render created within, right? So for this, we need a container view with a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.radius, and same thing, the first thing we need to render is the section title. Right, so over here it will be created within, and for the style, font will be H3. Alright, save it. Now after the text component, I'm going to render another container view with a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, flex direction equals to row, and the flex wrap equals to wrap, like that. Alright, and over here we will make use of the map method to render these text button. Okay, so we have constants dot created within dot map item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the text button component. Alright, so for the key, it's going to be created within followed by a dash and index. Label is going to be item.label. Content container style, height is going to be 45. Padding horizontal is going to be sizes.radius. Margin left, if index modulus 3 equals to 0, which means if the text button is in the first column, then the margin left will be 0. If it's not, then it will be sizes.radius. Alright, so the margin top will be sizes.radius. Border width is going to be 1. Border radius is going to be sizes.radius. Border color is going to be colors.grade20. And for the background color, if the item.id equals to selected created within, then the background color will be primary tree. If it's not, then it's going to be transparent, like that. Okay, next for the label style. For the color, if the item.id equals to selected created within, then the color is going to be white. If it's not, then it's going to be black. Alright, and the font will be body tree. Okay, and lastly for the press prop, whenever I click on this particular text button, we are going to set the selected created within to item.id. Alright, save it. Sweet. Alright, so after the created within section, next we'll move on to the class length section over here. Okay, so after the created within section, next we'll move on to the class length section. So for this, we need another view, another container view. Give it a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding. Alright, over here, same thing, we need the section title, so we need the text component. Created within, give it a bit of styling as well. The font will be H3. Alright, and for the slider over here, we have a slider, 2-point slider. We are going to make use of a library called React Native Multi-Slider. So scroll down, copy this, go back to your source code, paste it in your terminal and hit enter. Oh, I'm sorry, I accidentally copied the $sign as well. So I'm gonna copy one more time, like that, paste it in your terminal and hit enter. Alright, once we have done that, I'm going to close the app. I am going to cd into ls and run pop install. Okay, lastly, I'm going to cd back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, now that we have already installed the library, the first thing I'm going to do is to create a new custom component called 2-point slider. Alright, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need view, and also we need text. Okay, over here we need to import from React Native multi-slider, and over here it's going to be multi-slider. Alright, and lastly we need to import from constants, and here we need colors, fonts, and also sizes. Alright, and over here we can then create the functional component. So 2-point slider equals to, for this component we need 6 props, which are values, mean, max, prefix, postfix, and also on values change. Alright, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Alright, don't forget we need to export default 2-point slider. Alright, so over here we are going to return the multi-slider component. Values is going to be values. Slider length is going to be sizes.width minus sizes.padding times 2 minus 30. This is basically to calculate the length of the slider, which is from this point to this point over here. Okay. Next we have the minimum value. So mean equals to mean, maximum value, max equals to max. Step increase will be 1. Marker offset Y is going to be 15. Selected style is going to be height 2, and background color will be colors.primary. Track style is going to be height 1, border radius equals to 10, and background color equals to colors.grade 30. Next we are going to work on the custom marker prop. So custom marker, here we have the event prop. Alright, so after this we have the arrow function, and we are going to return the view with a bit of styling. Height equals to 60, width equals to 60 as well. Align item equals to center. Justify content equals to center as well. Basically what we are doing here is to work on the marker over here, custom marker over here. Okay, so we need another view with a bit of styling. Height equals to 15, width equals to 15, border radius equals to 10, border width equals to 2, border color equals to colors.primary, and the background color equals to colors.white. Alright, and after the custom marker, we are going to render the text component over here. So we have a text component that renders prefix e.current value followed by the postfix. Postfix. We don't need prefix at this in this project, but just in case we need that, I'm gonna include as well. Okay. So for the style, margin top will be 5, color is going to be 80, gray 80, and the font will be body 3. Okay, so after the custom marker prop, next we'll work on the on values change prop. So whenever the user changes the value, we will get the values, we will retrieve the value followed by the arrow function, and we will call on values change by passing the values over like that. Alright, save it. Now don't forget we need to include the 2-point slider in the index file over here. So I'm gonna simply copy and paste, change it to 2-point slider, and I'm going to export it over here. Alright, next we can then navigate back to the filter modal. Over here, after the text component, we are going to render another container view with a bit of styling. Oh, before I forgot, I need to import the 2-point slider component over here, right? So we need to import 2-point slider. Alright, so for this, the style will be align item center. Alright, and over here we are going to render the 2-point slider component. Values is going to be 20, 50. This is actually the initial value. Mean is going to be 15. The minimum value is going to be 15. The maximum value is going to be 60. And our postfix is going to be min, which stands for minutes. And whenever we have a value change, I'm going to tag the values, I'm going to tag the parameter, and simply console log in our terminal, right? Alright, now save it. Next, I'm going to navigate back to the filter model screen. So open up the course listing, filter model, and there you have it. We have the 2-point slider in place. Sweet. Now all we need to do is to work on the footer section over here. So go back to your source code. After the scroll view, we are going to render the footer section, and for this we will need to render a new function called render footer, and we are going to create this function over here, right? So function render footer, we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Flags direction equals to row, height equals to 50, margin bottom equals to 30, padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding. Alright, and over here we have two text buttons, right? We have the reset button and also the apply button. So we have the reset button. For this we need the text button component, right? Where the label is going to be reset, content container style, flags equals to 1, border radius equals to sizes.radius, border width equals to 1, and background color equals to null, because we want it to be transparent, right? So after this we have the label style. The color is going to be black, and the font will be H3. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. So we have the reset button in place. Next we have the apply button, right? Same thing, we need the text button component as well. For the label, it's going to be apply, content container style, it's going to be flags equals to 1, margin left equals to sizes.radius, border radius equals to sizes.radius as well, border width equals to 2, border color equals to colors.primary, and lastly the background color is going to be primary as well. Alright, next for the label style, color is going to be white and the font will be H3. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. We have just completed the filter model. Let me play around with it a little bit more. Alright. It's working fine. All good. Cancel works as well. Let me navigate back and change it to search. I can navigate from here as well. Same thing. Alright guys, and there you have it. We have finally completed the second part of this beautiful online learning app. The full source code for this project is available on shop.byprogrammers.com, and I have included the link in the description below. Now, as a token of appreciation from us, if you were to get the source code from shop.byprogrammers.com before we release the third and final part of this project, you will be able to get the source code for the subsequent parts entirely for free without any additional charges. Alright, so thanks for watching guys. If you liked the video, we'll be more than happy if you can give it a thumbs up, comment, share to your friends, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I will see you guys in the next video. Happy coding. Peace.